Hello, Year 5s. Welcome to our second week of online learning in Term 4, and it is my pleasure to record this short lesson on civics and citizenship. There will be a few changes to the way we do online learning over the next couple of weeks due to the nature of things, due to the nature of the things we have to do. So your connected learning lessons will be pre-recorded, so they are going to be asynchronous. That means we won't have a Zoom meeting, but every day you'll just have to put up with me for these connected learning lessons. So today I would like to continue our exploration. So we've decided Australia is a democracy, and if you remember last week we talked about different kinds of democracies. So this week I would encourage you to explore what kind of a democracy Australia is. And that depends on how things are run, how the nation is actually governed. So today you will have an opportunity to explore, what kind of democracy Australia has, how the Australian Parliament works, and the very important role of the Constitution. The Constitution is like the birth certificate for a person. It's the birth certificate for every nation, because it's actually the fundamental set of laws that the country is actually based on. So you will have an opportunity to explore different things, watch videos, or actually get onto connections to actually look at what is, the history of Parliament, because, the history of Parliament actually goes quite a fair bit back in history. But the Australian Parliament looks probably very different from what the first British Parliament looked like, or the Greek Parliament looked like, or the way the Romans were ruling themselves. And even though they like to think about themselves as democracies, things were not quite exactly the same as the way our Parliament is ruled these days. So I would like you to do your own research. That's why I'm going to keep this video very short. So the first thing you're going to do, there is a research template that I encourage you to actually fill in first. So there are two questions there. The first question is, what do you already know about the Australian Parliament, and what do you already know about the Australian Constitution? So this is just to get you to start thinking about, the Australian Parliament and the Australian Constitution. So when I talk about this, I do talk about the federal parliament. So we're not talking about the state parliament at the moment. So when I refer to the Australian Parliament, actually I'm implicitly thinking about the federal parliament. It's the one that meets in Canberra. It's the one that hopefully you will have a chance to visit next year. There won't be any more lockdowns, and you will be allowed to travel from Victoria into New South Wales and into the Australian Capital Territory. So it's always a brilliant excursion, and I hope you will have a chance to travel to Canberra. So, what do you already know about the Australian Parliament and about the Australian Constitution? That's the first question. And maybe you just jot down 3 things you already know about it. If you don't know anything, then don't jot down anything. But you might want to list, instead of 3 things you would like to know, maybe you would like to do probably 6 or 7 things, all right? Because there's quite a bit to find out about the Australian Parliament and the Australian Constitution. So that's the second question. What would you like to find about the Australian Parliament? What would you like to know about the Australian Constitution? What are some things that really interest you? And that's when you take a break and you actually go and access the links provided, or you watch the videos provided, and you jot down as many facts as you want. I've given you 3 things to list, but if you have more than 3 things, you are more than welcome to jot them all down, to list them all down. Now, I'm going to provide that as a Microsoft Word document, so you can actually just download that and fill in. If it's easy for you to just jot things down in a notebook, workbook, even better, no problem. You can just jot down those things and just make sure you have them handy, because you will use them again tomorrow, Tuesday. So I hope that this sort of inspires you and gives you a bit of a clue and a direction into what you need to search for today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to either post your questions on the forum or email your teachers individually. I hope you will have an enjoyable journey finding more things about the Australian Parliament and about the Australian Constitution. And I will see you again tomorrow with our second part to the Australian electoral process. Because Australia is actually a representative democracy. And that means people like you and me, we actually do not get a direct say into how laws are made. Okay, so we actually elect people who go into the parliament, and basically they speak on our behalf, and they will make legislation or laws that basically reflect our views, our values, the things we find important. So that's the first thing I would like you to take from today's lesson. Australia is a representative democracy. It's not a direct democracy. And I'm sure as you're going to do your research and you're going to read things out, you're going to find out what's the difference between a representative democracy as opposed to a direct democracy. I would say probably most of the countries in the world, there are democracies today, are actually representative democracies. I cannot think for myself off the top of my head of one example currently in the world of a country that is actually a direct democracy. Okay. If you have any questions, just post them in the forum. I hope you're going to have an enjoyable journey, and I hope to see you again tomorrow with our second installment, when we are going to look actually more closely at how do we get these people into the parliament. I'm really looking forward to that. Well, that's pretty much it for me. I hope you have an enjoyable time exploring these things, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.